Well, hello. Today we are talking about the connections between being an empath or a highly sensitive person and chronic pain. So if you suspect that you are perhaps one of those and you experience chronic pain, you're going to want to listen to this show. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer. I used to be an engineer until my own structure started to fail. I had to stop designing structures and focus on my own structure. And I became a functional medicine certified health coach, a yoga teacher, and certified energy codes facilitator. Now I help other people get out of chronic pain. I've reversed all mine naturally from rheumatoid arthritis, and now I'm doing what I've been called to do, and that is teach other people how to get out of chronic pain, which is why I'm talking about this topic today. It came across a book I was reading recently about empaths, highly sensitive people, and perhaps the connection between chronic conditions. And I've noticed this myself in people that I work with, and in my own background as well, that these people with chronic pain often tend to be sensitive. I was told you're so sensitive for years, and also tend to hold it in. So we're going to talk about how that might manifest as chronic pain, and then also strategies for we can't always change who we are, but how to change our environment so that we can help release chronic pain, even as we are being an empath or a highly sensitive person. So let me just tell you first the difference between an empath and a highly sensitive person. So an empath, these are people who are highly attuned to the emotions and energy of other people, often to the point that they'll even feel the emotions of people around them. It's a little, to me, there's a lot of overlap between empaths and highly sensitive people, but just listen to the definition of a highly sensitive person. So like an empath, they have a heightened sensitivity to their environment and emotions, and the emotions of others, but not specifically the energetics of another person. I wonder, I'm no expert in these topics, but I wonder if there's a lot of overlap, or, are these two things the same? So we're going to have a look at, got a questionnaire, not my questionnaire, but another person's questionnaire on being an empath, to see what you think, and you can do a little self-assessment with that. And then we'll talk about how being an empath or a highly sensitive person impacts your physical health. And then we'll talk about strategies on, if you are an empath, highly sensitive person, then how you can, create an environment that's not going to let that impact your health or minimize it. Okay, so why do empaths and highly sensitive people why they may experience chronic pain? And I'm talking about chronic pain, but this could just as easily apply to other chronic conditions. So for empaths, there's been a bit more science actually on the highly sensitive person than scientific research on empaths. Empaths may experience chronic pain or other health issues, potentially linked to emotional and energetics that they absorb from other people. So they're around people who might be, giving off negative energy. We've all been around people like that, and then they tend to absorb it. Highly sensitive people. So there is research on highly sensitive people, and it's shown that they may be more prone to stress and anxiety, which then can contribute to a variety of health issues, including chronic pain. So you probably know, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, that I talk a lot about the connection between stress and chronic pain. I think it's really everything to do with chronic pain. So when we have chronic stress, then that can lead to anxiety as well. So chronic stress and anxiety can lead to tension in the body, we physically will hold it in our body, muscle pain and other discomforts. I just want to talk a moment about the difference again between empaths and highly sensitive people, and are we born with it or do we develop it? I know from research that I've done specifically on people with chronic pain and what we call personality traits, which I often refer to as behavioral adaptations, are more a result of the environment that we were nurtured in or we grew up in, especially before the age of 7. So we can't fight and we can't flee, and so we've got to kind of protect ourselves, and that might encourage someone to become a highly sensitive person because they're very sensitive, hyper vigilant to the people around them and the environment around them because they've had to do that as a self-preservation technique, strategy when they're little. So it's a learned behavior. I wonder with empaths, because there's this energetic component, I wonder if that's more like how we were born. It's something we kind of came into this, I'll call this incarnation with. So I don't know whether that's true or not, just my own thoughts on it. Curious to know what your thoughts are, but that's what I think. So but whether it's one or the other doesn't really matter. What we want to do is understand how we can develop strategies to help us so that we can release the chronic pain that often comes along with it. And I'm talking about chronic pain, like I said, this can be any chronic condition. It could be the chronic anxiety. It could be another illness. I believe that stress is really the foundation behind a lot of these. So we'll talk a little bit about stress, emotions, and chronic pain. So there's a well-established link in the research between chronic stress, emotional states, and chronic pain. And I know this was the case for me. I'd had this stressful year, and then rheumatoid arthritis came along. Of course, that was just what made my bucket overflow. I had stress, like an undercurrent of stress, really since I was little that I wasn't even really aware of because it was so normal for me. But of course, when we get that chronic stress and chronic pain, we can, again, lead to that muscle tension. So for years before rheumatoid arthritis came along, I did have a lot of muscle tension, constantly going to the chiropractor, my neck, my shoulders, all these different areas. Mostly my neck and shoulders is where I held a lot of tension and stress. And then other emotional factors like anxiety and depression and trauma can make these events, the stress and the pain, make it worse, right? It'll just keep piling on top of it. And we know that there's a mind-body connection as well. So we know that pain is highly influenced by our thoughts, what's going on in our mind. There's emotional and psychological factors that can impact how we perceive pain and how we experience pain. So that's a lot of what's going on there as well. And we know that mindfulness techniques like meditation and different relaxation strategies, I teach a lot about breath work, that can be used to help manage chronic pain, including people that are highly sensitive or empathetic. All right, we're going to talk next about self-assessment for empaths and highly sensitive people. Before that, we're going to take a little break to hear about one of the sponsors of the podcast. This episode of the Wellness by Design podcast is sponsored by the beautiful Harmony pendant. I love wearing this pendant because it helps protect me from harmful EMFs no matter where I am. Our cells are under pressure from the constant exposure to radiation from EMFs or electromagnetic fields that we are bombarded with 24/7 from Bluetooth devices, Wi-Fi routers, cell phone towers, satellites, and even electrical wiring in our homes. Some of the potential consequences of EMF exposure include cellular damage, fatigue, chronic pain, I know that one, poor sleep, poor attention and concentration, neurological damage, which can lead to a whole host of brain disorders, skin and hair aging, and weight gain. If you suffer from any of these symptoms, it could be caused by your nervous system and cells being bombarded by EMF radiation. More than 240 scientists have signed an international appeal calling for health warnings to be added to EMF emitting devices. Studies show that the Harmony pendant can boost your defenses against EMF radiation by 700%. Wondering how the Harmony pendant works? Bioenergetics is the answer. Bioenergetics is about vibrational energy, and as you probably know, everything is energy, including our bodies. The design of the Harmony pendant, the exact location of the holes, the sacred geometry on which it's based create a harmonizing vibration with your energy field to help protect you from EMF stressors. I also like that wearing it reminds me to do other things to protect myself from EMFs, like not holding my cell phone close to my head and putting devices in airplane mode at night. Check out the link in the description to save up to 50% on the Harmony pendant. Okay, coming back, we are going to talk now about a self-assessment to determine whether you are an empath or highly sensitive person. So the person, I found this website and by Dr. Judith Orloff. So judithorloff.com. She has 20 questions, a self-assessment 20 questions to determine whether you're an empath. So have a listen to these. I'm going to read out the 20 questions. Now you can also go to her website, drjudithorloff.com, and do the quiz yourself. But I'm just going to read some of the questions here. So have I been labeled as an overly sensitive, shy, or introverted? Number 2, do I frequently get overwhelmed or anxious? Number 3, do arguments or yelling make me ill? So I hope you're keeping track of the number of questions that you say yes to, okay? Number 4, do I often feel like I don't fit in? Number 5, am I drained by crowds and need alone time to revive myself? Number 6, am I overstimulated by noise, odors, or nonstop talkers? Number 7, do I have chemical sensitivities or can't tolerate scratchy clothes? Number 8, do I prefer taking my own car places so I can leave early if I need to? Number 9, I'm laughing because that's what I do. Number 9, do I overeat to cope with stress? Number 10, am I afraid of becoming suffocated by intimate relationships? Number 11, do I startle easily? Number 12, do I react strongly to caffeine or medications? Number 13, do I have a low pain threshold? Number 14, do I tend to socially isolate? Number 15, do I absorb other people's stress, emotions, or symptoms? Number 16, am I overwhelmed by multitasking and prefer doing one thing at a time? Number 17, do I replenish myself in nature? Number 18, do I need a long time to recuperate after being with difficult people or energy vampires? Number 19, do I feel better in small cities or the country than large cities? And number 20, do I prefer one-to-one interactions or small groups rather than large gatherings? So, total up the number of yeses. So to calculate your results, Dr. Orloff says, if you answered yes to 1 to 5 questions, you're at least partially an empath. Responding yes to 6 to 10 questions means you have moderate empathic tendencies. Responding yes to 11 to 15 means you have strong empathetic tendencies. And answering yes to more than 15 questions means that you are a full-blown empath. So how did you score on that? I know when I did it, I was full-blown empath. So I know that about me. And I always knew, as I said, that people had told me you're so sensitive because I would cry at anything. I was born a Pisces. They say Pisces are sensitive. I kind of blame it on that. But I also know that my experiences when I was little led me to being very sensitive. So sensitive to people. But I also feel like energetically I can pick up on people. Like I can sense the kind of people I'm around, the kind of person that someone is when I meet them. So I think I do pick up on those energies. So there's good news though. So I want to talk about the good news afterwards. But now that we've done the self-assessment, I just want you to think about in that self-assessment and the way you answer, just reflect on your own experiences in life. Like I've just reflected on mine. Did you come into life, you think, as an empath, or did you become sensitive as a result of your upbringing? And maybe you don't know the answer to that, but it's just something to ponder. So let's talk about now how you might, if you are a person experiencing chronic pain and you suspect that you're an empath or a highly sensitive person, then what are some strategies to help you? So first of all, this is the number one strategy for everything, and that's radical self-love. Just really loving yourself for who you are and all that comes with you, because you are perfect as you are. Every one of us is. You are lovable just as you are. And so maybe you might want to try some strategies around that. I love for self-love. What really helped me was affirmations, looking at myself in the mirror, speaking to myself kindly as my mother would speak to me, because I had a very good relationship with my mother. Or maybe you might speak to yourself in a way that if you were your own best friend, how would you speak to yourself? Or imagine if you've got a child in your life, you're a parent and you truly love your child, how would you speak to that child if you were speaking to speak to yourself the same way? So give yourself so much love and compassion, self-compassion, because we're way too hard on ourselves. And if that strikes a chord with you, being too hard on yourself, then it probably means that it's a truth. And then any stress reduction techniques are going to help. So whatever you do for stress reduction, I love doing breath work techniques. If you find going for a walk helps you reduce stress, or listening to music, any of those kinds of things are going to be helpful. Any kind of mindfulness practice or relaxation exercises like meditation or body scans. Tapping is a really, I find, a very useful tool. Journaling, humming is really fun. And we've got a lot of different strategies. Now, you might find for you, it's just like it's listening to music, or it might be reading a book or having a bath, or maybe for you it's painting, or just think of sewing or gardening, anything that really gets you, I would say, out of thinking all the time. Like what gets you into that state of flow where you kind of lose track of time. Those kinds of things, those activities are ones that are going to be super helpful for you. And the radical self-love comes into this in that you need to make sure that those things happen. Right? You might talk yourself out of them, like I'm too busy. No, I can't do that. So don't talk yourself out of it. Put it on your calendar. Schedule this time for radical self-care and compassion, where you do these activities that are supportive for you. And if that isn't enough for you, then maybe you need to seek help with a professional, have some therapy to help support your emotional well-being. And you'll find, I see this over and over again, when we support our emotional self-being, our emotional health, and with stress reduction and self-love, then I see it all the time that people have less pain. I know it seems like it can't be that simple, but it is that simple. We know, as I mentioned earlier from the research, that it's pain, the perception of pain, and the intensity of pain is really affected by our emotional state. So anything we can do for our emotional state that's going to improve that is going to help. So I would love to hear, another thing I want to mention is establishing healthy boundaries, right? We can say no. No is a complete sentence. We can say no to things, and we don't have to explain ourselves or give an excuse or get into elaborate reasons why we can't do something. We can just say, no, that doesn't work for me right now. Okay, you can just say something as simple as that. That is a way that you can really establish boundaries for yourself and protect yourself. Look back at those questions that we did, and knowing, right, that there's things that support us better. For example, and just think about living in the country rather than living in a city, or not being around loud things. I used to because everyone went to, rock concerts and stuff, I was like, yeah, I gotta go. I hated the loud noise. Now I know I just don't want to be around that. It does not serve me. I don't like watching violent movies or movies where people are nasty to each other. I know that now. I never did. But I was just like, follow along now. I go, no, I'm just not watching that, or the news, right? I know these things disturb me because I am one of those empathetic people. I pick up on that. And so I just don't want to be around it. So I can say no to it, right? And so can you. I encourage you. So I also encourage you to submit any questions. So whether you are wherever you're watching this or listening, submit a question, or you can just email me, support@thewellnessengineer.com, to share a question or some of your own experiences. What are your thoughts on this? Has this been eye-opening for you in terms of understanding yourself a little bit better? So the thing that I do find in my coaching, in my Living Pain Free program, I just had a group coaching session last night, and one of the ladies, lots of times people know what they need to do. They know that they need to make more time for self-care, for example, and they also know that they talk themselves out of things. So this came up last night where this person had said, she made a note to herself and said, don't try to talk yourself out of it, because she knew that she does that kind of thing. So how can you make sure that you're making time for yourself and not talking yourself out of it? Okay, how can you do that? Be your own best coach. If you were coaching yourself, what would you tell yourself? Sometimes I have to do this with myself. If I was my own coach, or if I was one of my clients with this, what would I say? So hope you've enjoyed this. I know what I want to say. One final thing is that, so I was always led to feel like, being sensitive was something wrong with me. Right? Stop being so sensitive. It felt like I shouldn't be sensitive. I shouldn't cry so easily. I shouldn't be picking up on all that. But what I want to tell you, if you are an empath or a highly sensitive person, I want to tell you that is your superpower. It is a superpower, because highly sensitive people and empaths tend to have higher sense of intuition, more highly developed intuition. And I will say that is a superpower. You can, if you've got enhanced intuition, you can also tune into your own inner guidance and get answers that way. So I will say that being a highly sensitive person or an empath is a superpower. And in fact, there's a book by Anita Moorjani, who wrote Dying to Be Me. Sensitive is the New Strong. I think that's the name of it. And she's talking about this issue, right? Or how being an empath or a highly sensitive person is actually a great attribute to have, especially in our culture as we're kind of evolving now into a culture where we are moving from like just me to we, right? We're embracing our connectedness. And so when you can pick up on intuition, you've got highly attuned intuition, and you can pick up on other people, that is a superpower. So I want you to embrace it. If you are an empath or a highly sensitive person, it is something to be celebrated, and I celebrate with you. All right, so we've talked about being an empath and a highly sensitive person, what some of the differences are. We've done the quiz, so maybe you've got an idea if you are in that range, and also some things that can help you if you are, strategies to help lower pain. And actually all those strategies that I talked about, whether you answered the questions and found out that you're an empath or not, if you have chronic pain, those are all going to help you. Okay, so I look forward to hearing your comments. Let me know what you thought of this podcast. If you know someone else who perhaps is you suspect highly sensitive person or an empath and has chronic pain or another chronic condition, share this podcast with them, whether you're watching it on YouTube or wherever you're picking this up. Just, there's always a share link. You can share it with someone. And also, I'd love it if you if you're watching this on YouTube, click the bell button to subscribe, give this podcast a like. And if you're listening on a podcast, scroll down to rate and review the podcast. It really helps us reach people who need to hear it, and helps me on my mission to have a world with people who have less chronic pain. So thank you so much for being here today, for supporting me on my mission. And I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great week.